It's the 28th of February 2021, indeed the last day of this month. It's Sunday evening and welcome to Channel 1 Weekend. I hope you had yourself a lovely week. My name is Purity Museo. We have quite a lot in store for you tonight. Family Matters is on and we have interesting discussions going on. Tomorrow is the day for the wheelchair and we just want to have a look at what's going on with the people living with disabilities. And we shall be having that conversation with a team of experts. Again, a discussion on the ongoing schools arrest should not be ignored. We'll also be having that discussion. And NACADA did release a report that trying to link drug abuse with to the ongoing schools arrest around the country. So we will also be unpacking that and much more at Purity_Museo on Twitter and at KBC Channel 1. Use the hashtag Family Matters KBC. Let's begin our broadcast with the day's highlights.
Rafiki yangu Rais Uhuru Kenyatta akikamilisha nafasi yake, sisi ambao tumebaki tutahakikisha ya kwamba tunatimiza ile ahadi na ile mpango tulikuwa naye ya transformation ya taifa letu la Kenya.
Weekend of politics. Politicians sustain BBI campaigns as DP William Ruto says government development agenda will not be derailed. The COVID-19 curve. Fears of another wave of COVID-19 infections as the infection rate spikes to 9.9% ahead of the arrival of the vaccine in the country. And MCK wrangles calls for a mediation reverberate following wrangles at the Media Council of Kenya over the contentious removal of a council member. A very warm welcome to the broadcast. Byron Abuli is our sign language interpreter tonight. We ask you, do you believe there is any link between the ongoing schools unrest to students partaking of the drugs in the country? Do you believe there is any link between the ongoing schools unrest in the country and students partaking of drugs? At Purity_Museo and at KBC Channel 1 News. I'll be going through your feedback during this broadcast. Do tell us. We are live on Facebook and YouTube. Let's begin our broadcast tonight. Deputy President William Ruto says the government will not be distracted by leaders out to derail its development agenda. Ruto says the Jubilee administration has laid a firm development foundation that he intends to advance upon the retirement of President Uhuru Kenyatta in 2022. Meanwhile, ODM leader Raila Odinga took the BBI gospel to Museo and Kakamega counties where he called for national healing.
Ona hurubaro iko hapa. Hii hurubaro tunataka kutumia hii hurubaro kukumbusha wale ya kwamba kazi ni kazi.
Deputy President William Ruto has maintained that the ongoing constitutional review has temporarily derailed the government's agenda but assured the country it will soon be over.
Na kwa hivyo wakati mimi niko hapa Gatanga, niko kwa wadosi wangu walioniajiri kazi. Na lazima nikuje nieleze wadosi ile kazi walinipatia na Uhuru Kenyatta imefika wapi.
Ruto said the Jubilee administration has laid a firm development foundation that he intends to advance upon the retirement of President Uhuru Kenyatta in 2022.
We don't want to be sidetracked by diversionary forces. We want to focus on how to transform our nation and how to make every citizen count in Kenya.
Juzi niliona huko State House wanaume 6 na mama moja wanasimama hapo hata wanatuambia vile Kenya itaenda mbele. Hatuna ubaya na mtu. Na sisi hatuhitaji msaada wa mtu yeyote. Tunahitaji msaada wa Mwenyezi Mungu na nyinyi kama wapiga kura. Hatutaki ati sijui endorsement sijui nini.
On Sunday, ODM leader Raila Odinga was in Museo and Kakamega counties where he said that tribalism has been the biggest undoing in this country. The former Prime Minister said the journey to Canaan will only be fulfilled through BBI.
Tulisema katika ile katiba ya 2010 ati pesa ya chini zaidi ambayo inaweza kuleta hapo chini ni 15 kwa 100. Lakini kwa sababu namna hiyo ndio wanaleta zaidi, walete 16 au 17. Tukasema sasa tupandishe ifike 35 kwa 100. Itoe juu ije hapa chini.
Raila and his political allies have been on the forefront, urging Kenyans to back the BBI process.
Candidate yetu ya president, and we are not negotiating, sisi watu ya Busia na tunakuelewa itakuwa wewe Raila Odinga. Kuna wale ambao wanasema hatukuna deni unataka kulipa. Hawa ndio wana deni yako. Umekuwa ukibeba hii watu kwa mgongo.
The spirit of reforms that has been brought about by the handshake and the BBI must be nurtured by all those who mean well for this country.
Meanwhile, Amani National Congress leader Musalia Mudavadi says he is not waiting for anyone's endorsement for presidency.
Na mimi nawasihi hiyo referendum ikija tupitishe ili tukifika 2022 hatuzungumzi tena mambo ya BBI. Hiyo imemalizika, tunaanza kuona mtu anasema sera zake zitakuwa nini.
A section of country's political pundits has suggested that Mudavadi may be strongly positioning himself in the ongoing jostle for political alignments.
Nikienda kumali na ndo maana mimi niko na msalia because sijawahi sikia kitukana mtu. Si ati ajui matusi. Anajua hiyo maneno. But sijasikia kitukana mtu. Sijasikia kitumia maneno mabaya. Sijasikia kitafuta vijana waende kumpigia kiongozi mwingine kelele.
Kevin Washira, Channel 1 News.
Away from politics, Kenya's COVID-19 infection rate has risen to 9.9% after 325 more people tested positive for the disease. In the latest figures released by the Ministry of Health, 2 more people succumbed to the disease, while 69 others made a full recovery in the last 24 hours. Meanwhile, the first batch of COVID-19 vaccine is expected in the country as early as Tuesday.
Kenya's COVID-19 burden has risen to 105,973 following the confirmation of 325 new infections. The new cases emanated from 3,282 samples tested, reflecting a rise in infection rate to 9.9%. Within the last 24 hours, 69 patients made full recovery to push the total number of recoveries to date to 86,678. The number of fatalities rose to 1,856 after 2 more patients lost their lives. Meanwhile, 347 patients are admitted in hospital, with 58 in the intensive care unit and 1 in the high dependency unit. Another 1,495 patients are receiving treatment at home. Nancy Okwari, Channel 1 News.
The Kenya Editors Guild is calling for mediation in the ongoing wrangles at the Media Council of Kenya over the contentious removal of Tabitha Mutemi as a council member. The Guild says that removal of Mutemi was unprocedural and cautioning the CEO against bowing to outside pressure that was threatening the integrity of MCK. Mutemi has since threatened to sue MCK for terminating her contract. Safina Cheng Oma with details of the challenges facing the media body.
The Kenya Editors Guild has waded into the ongoing circus at the Media Council of Kenya, pitting council member Tabitha Mutemi and the CEO David Omoyo. Trouble began after the Attorney General wrote an advisory opinion to the MCK notifying them that the appointment of Mutemi was unlawful, as she already holds another public office at the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission. Following the advisory, the CEO, David Omoyo, wrote to Mutemi, giving her the marching orders. It is this move that the Editors Guild chairman, Churchill Otieno, says is unprocedural. In a statement, Otieno is calling for mediation to avoid tarnishing the media body's image and arouse integrity queries. He says, and I quote, "In order to uphold the integrity of MCK and protect it from unseemingly public wrangles, we urge all sides to pull back and seek a mediation solution. In the first instance, the letter from the Media Council CEO withdrawing recognition of Mutemi as council member should be withdrawn immediately. Thereafter, the CEO, the CS, or any other entity seeking to pursue the matter of Mutemi's eligibility to serve on the MCK Council will be at liberty to do so through the laid-down procedures." He added KEG will be petitioning the National Assembly to ensure protection of media freedom from the benefit of Kenyan citizens and their democratic rights. For Channel 1 News, I'm Safin Aching Oma.
This is Channel 1 Weekend. Tonight we ask you, do you think there is any link between the drug abuse or ongoing unrest in schools to students partaking of drugs in the country? Do you believe there is any link between the ongoing schools arrest to students and learners partaking of drugs in the country? I'll be having that conversation with Elmad Regan, a psychologist, and also Joel Gitali, who is the chair, Kenya Tobacco Control Alliance. And apart from that, Kenya joins the rest of the world tomorrow to mark the Wheelchair Day. And this is a day that usually celebrated or to just remember the strides made by the wheelchair users and how easy this wheelchair has made for them. We shall also have that conversation with a team of experts in studio tonight. So do talk to us at Purity_Museo and at KBC Channel 1 use the hashtag #FamilyMattersKBC. Stakeholders in the fight against HIV and AIDS remain worried that continued stigma and failure to embrace consistent use of condoms could reverse gains recorded over the years. Such is the predicament in parts of northern Kenya, where stigma for those living with the virus remains worryingly high in a region where condom use remains a taboo topic.
Characterized by predominantly pastoral communities, northern Kenya is among regions with the lowest HIV prevalence rates in the country, a tranquility that has perhaps given a false notion among area residents that the fight against the virus is never a priority. But amid the serenity, the subject is proving an elephant in the room, a whirlwind that has now presented stakeholders in the fight against HIV and AIDS with a new challenge.
Our biggest challenge is HIV stigma and discrimination. This has been a problem and a bottleneck in our implementation of HIV interventions in the greater northern Kenya and Garissa specifically.
Once my community, they see that someone has that virus, they don't want to see you. They don't want to help you. They don't want to chat with you. It's like you are dead from that community.
For the people who use condom, they don't have the confidence in that they cannot go to the shop and ask for it, because you will be asked, why are you using a condom? Why are you even going to do such an act?
Because you watu msituni watu kwa mama hawajui condom. Na hujui mtu mahali ametoka. Mnaongea na hao usiku, mtu anakula mila ajui, na mtu anajua kula mila saa ingine anachanganyikwa.
Teaching us. Their efforts now turning to the popularization of condoms as one way of sustaining success in the fight against the epidemic, amid the realization that changing trends and increased movement of people to the region that is fast developing presents a fertile ground for new infections. In a region where the C word is still a taboo topic, the efforts by the stakeholders seems to break the ice, albeit with some degree of difficulty. From religious to community leaders, the message on condom use appears a hard sell, with those opposed to the plan advocating for alternatives.
Committing adultery is haram and prohibited in Islam, prohibited in all the books, the Torah, the Injil, the Quran, and Zabur. Adultery, homosexuality, all these things prohibited, and we cannot encourage the society to use the condoms.
Muslims always say you abstain completely sex outside marriage. Abstain completely. As a Muslim, we are supposed to abstain, and if we could not abstain, we go for simple marriage.
Whereby Almighty God will never ask you why you didn't get children. But Almighty God will ask you, why did you do illegal sex? Why have you done? Why have you committed adultery?
The social, religious and cultural dynamics, according to the National AIDS Control Council Regional Coordinator Wario Boru, have limited the scope of sensitization efforts.
We may not be able to do this international condoms day in the market, as it is happening in other parts of the area, because it will become a talk of the town, it will be the talk of the religious community in the mosque.
And they think that this is a disease not for the Muslims, it's a disease for those.
The gap between knowledge and practice presenting a unique challenge for stakeholders who are also struggling with the problem of stigma, with the region having one of the highest stigma index in the country.
It has even affected uptake of services in terms of HIV testing, in terms of uptake of drugs, in terms of adherence to drugs. Many people, if you look at the HIV cascade, the 90-90-90, this region has not reached the targets that the country has set, while the other parts of the country are progressing to 95. In this part, we are even not yet at 90 because of this stigma.
Mutinda Mutuku, a HIV investment program officer with the National AIDS Control Council, says the obtaining situation in the northern part of the country could present a new economic challenge, with each HIV patient requiring 40,000 shillings annually on average to manage the condition amid diminishing financial support from international partners.
And so we call upon the national government, the bodies that work in the infrastructure sector, either roads or environment or energy, to when they are allocating their resources towards HIV prevention, as outlined in the environmental and social impact assessment, that these resources are efficiently and well utilized.
According to the Garissa County Commissioner Meru Mwangi, the problem is further compounded by the fact that persons who are deeply religious hardly talk about behaviors that are not in conformity with their religious beliefs.
We have the religious pastors groups. We also have the sheikhs, and we normally meet and sometimes try to mitigate. We are able to educate the youth, we are able to educate the border people, and for the purposes of bringing the people informed, because we believe that education is power.
Mwangi is saying that the government has put in place policies to deal with social vices that have seen integration of local stakeholders in ongoing efforts.
We want transformation, but transformation is a product. It requires creativity, innovation, it requires behavior change. We want to get the very best, but we also need to change our behavior. We also need to change our behavior, our mentality. We need to change our attitude.
While HIV prevalence rates across the country have continued on a downward trajectory, latest statistics indicate that young people comprise the bulk of new infections, with the latest figures indicating that over 40% of new cases are among those aged between 15 and 24 years.
And on our question tonight, whether you think there is any link between ongoing unrest in schools to students partaking in drugs. On Facebook, Alicia, you're saying yes, so many children are nowadays taking drugs, and most of them started during the COVID-19 period. And then Caroline Derry, you're saying yes, there is a link, and the 9-month break did everything, and it's the cause for children now banning schools. We shall be addressing all that tonight on the show. Elsewhere, a 60-year-old man in Likoni, Mombasa County is in need of 1.5 million shillings to undergo a hip replacement. Sabiti Athman says since 2014 he has been suffering from severe arthritis that has led to the amputation of his right leg. His family says it is unable to raise the funds needed for his treatment.
Thabiti Adman says he has gone through unbearable pain over the last 7 years.
Mwaka 2014 nikafanya mchango kidogo, nikapelekwa Mombasa Hospital, nikafanywa operation ya hip joint, ambapo kwa sababu hip joint zote ni mbaya.
Thabiti suffers from severe arthritis and has had his right leg amputated.
Jana mwezi wa 7 mguu ndio ukapasiti, ukawa mgonjwa zaidi, kauma kabisa, ukawa hata siwezi kunyanyuka. Nikafanywa operation hapo walipokuwa nimefanywa operation ya kwanza, kwa sababu ilikuwa imedislocate ile implement ilikuwa imewekwa hapo ndani. Ilipotolewa ikawekwa dawa ambayo nitakaa nayo kwa wiki 3. Baada ya wiki 3 ingekuwa ikisha niregeshe tena, nikafanywa operation full. Lakini baada ya kufanywa after 1 week, mguu huu wa kulia huu ambao ni mbovu ukaanza kutoa blisters huko chini kwenye nyayo. Chini ukawa umevimba, na hapa juu ya vidole vyote vikashikana, vikawa ni vyeusi na vimekufa ganzi. Basi ikawa hivyo, ndio daktari wakaona haiwezekani, there is no otherwise, mpaka wanifanyia amputation.
With no job and on full-time care of his family, Thabiti has had to live on painkillers.
Mpunguza maumivu kwa sababu ya kuumwa. Sasa nikikosa painkillers lazima huwa nitakuwa na shida sana. Na especially wakati kama huu wa mawingu huwa naumwa sana.
Thabiti says he needs a hip replacement, a procedure which requires 1.5 million shillings.
Kwa sababu bomu haina facility ile ambayo zitatosha kufanya operation hiyo. Wao nipeleke either Mombasa Hospital, Aga Khan, Pandia ama Premium. Hizo 3 kubwa ambazo zinatakikana nifanyie hapa. Availability of pesa. Kwa hivi sasa hata kama ni leo tu nikipata pesa naweza kupeleka, kwa sababu sasa pesa ndio zinatakikana.
Financial donations can be sent to his mobile phone 0723954304 0723954304. Meanwhile, a family in Boitangare, Sameta in Kisii County is appealing for financial assistance to enable the Akin to undergo a diagnosis and treatment for a strange disease. The family says they began noticing their son's health was failing when he turned 3. 17 years later, he continues to suffer numerous health complications, among them mental illness, physical disability and failing eyesight. The 20-year-old also has a huge growth on his back.
Ugonjwa wake ulianza kuwa hivyo. Alikuwa anasimama, alikuwa anatembea. Sasa ikafika mahali hiyo ugonjwa ikamlemea.
Problem, he cannot walk, but if given medication, if somebody can help him, he can stand and be okay and go to school.
According to his family, he was abandoned by his mother after she got married, and he was left under the care of his grandmother.
Nasumbuka na mimi na mtoto anasumbuka. Hakuna pesa, hakuna kitu. Msaidie. Naomba msaidie. Pesa ya kuenda hospitali.
So she goes for work, labor work, and she gets the little she gets, she buys food for the boy. We urge that if there is anybody who can be of help to him, kindly assist, and God will bless you.
Assistance can be channeled through his uncle's phone number 0111 356 192 0111 356 192, account name Duncan Achochi.
Let's help where we can. You can always reach out to us for more information about the family. And an ambitious water project has been launched to increase access to water, to safe water for domestic use in rural communities. The project aims at providing 3 million households with water tanks by 2028 to encourage water harvesting and reduce the time traveled to in search of water. More details in the County News Roundup.
The project, which kicked off in Kakamega, spearheaded by Equity Bank and Maendeleo ya Wanawake organization, aims at encouraging households to focus on water harvesting and store it for use during the dry season. The program will entail provision of funds to purchase water tanks for 1 million households by 2024 and another 2 million households by 2028.
Fuata vile rais alituambia katika AGM ya maendeleo,
tuondoe mtungi kwa mgongo wa mama, lakini sisi Western tunataka kuondoa mtungi wa maji kutoka kwa kichwa cha mama. Tuhakikishe ya kwamba maji yako mlangoni pa kila boma.
In the meantime, over 1,500 families evicted from the Mau complex and resettled at Saptet camp are now calling on the government to look into their welfare. The families are decrying poor living conditions and lack of financial muscle to meet their basic needs.
Hawana nguo, hawana madawa, hawana vitu mingi sana ambazo zinafaa kwa binadamu, kwa maisha ya binadamu.
This as a 31-year-old former military officer is seeking justice and compensation over what he claims is unfair dismissal from the service. Moses Etiang says he was injured while serving in Somalia, leading to his dismissal from the army. His family says it has run out of options after selling almost everything to cater for his medical bills.
Familia niko na watoto na hiyo pesa ikanisaidia kushinda. Sasa saizi imekuwa burden kwa family members. Wametumia pesa ya kutosha, inaelekea karibu milioni. Nimeenda hospitali zote za Kenya, nimeenda paka Uganda. Sina pesa ya kujibudu.
Elsewhere, residents of Tinga Farm in Kipkelion West, Kericho County are crying foul following the decision by the Kenya Episcopal Conference to lease its land to private developers without their input. A meeting by the residents on the matter was cut short as police dispersed the crowd. The area chief, Andrew Soy, appealed for calm, citing due process was followed in the allocation of land.
Hali imekuwa swari mpaka wakati huu. Wale watu ambao walikuwa wanaomba mashamba tayari wamepatiwa, wengine hawajapatiwa, kuna wachache, na tunajaribu hiyo slot hiyo wapate ili amani ipatikane sehemu hii vizuri bila kuwa na shida na mwenye shamba.
Beatrice Getonyenge-Tich, Channel 1 News.
In other news, northern Kenya has been perceived to be a dusty, dry, undeveloped or underdeveloped region. However, a trip to the region would paint a different picture of the hidden treasures. It is a region that prides itself as a place where archaeological artifacts dating to millions of years were discovered. Our reporter Alan Aoko was in northern Kenya hinterland and of course brings us details of the hidden wonders that dot the region.
This is a story of resilience. It's also a story of adventure.
Hidden national treasures and surprising attractions of historical significance can be seen beyond Mount Mtelo in West Pokot County. Here in Kapenguria, there lies an attraction of political significance. This is where 6 leading Kenyan nationalists were arrested in 1952. Tried at Kapenguria in 1952 to 1953 and imprisoned thereafter in northern Kenya. They were Bildad Kagea, Kongo Karumba, Jomo Kenyatta, Fred Kubai, Paul Ngei and Achieng Oneko. Beyond the Kerio Valley, bordered by escarpments to the east and west, the floor is broken by volcanoes, some still active and containing a series of volcanic flakes.
This is a Lazagan pillar site, and all of this panel is frames, all of this, and the other one is just a black, sandstone on top there, and this the rocks is the cliffs. Here you have different kinds of bones.
And as if that's not enough for the casual visitor, locals recommend Napeget sand dunes, which boasts of a splendor comparable to those at the Kenyan coast.
You might be mistaken that this is the coast or probably Dubai, yes? But no, this is Napeget sand dunes here in Napeget, Turkana County. This is a place where you'd probably find serenity in sliding down sand dunes with snowboards or sandboards, if you may call it. These are some of the tourist attractions that the Kenya Tourism Board is urging you to come and see.
Not forgetting the colorful pillar site, also known as Namorotunga 2. It is an archaeological site on the west side of Lake Turkana. Namoratunga means a people of stone in the Turkana language. Locals here have taken up the challenge to study their culture as a way of giving back to society. However, not many Kenyans are conversant with the archaeological wonders.
How is our curriculum? Does our curriculum take into consideration the issue of human evolution, stone tools, and what? No. All these things, we come to know them like, oh, there are some of the things that are happening when you tend to advance and interact with other people that their curriculum in the other countries take into consideration this.
Nevertheless, even with a tumultuous 2020 and rising lakes on the floor of Kenya's Rift Valley, Lake Turkana hides a splendid surprise.
After a grueling 5-kilometer walk through thistles and thorns and sharp rock and slippery slopes, this is the reward. The Lake Baringo flamingos, these guys from the Rift Valley of Kenya, flew all the way up here to Central Island in Lake Turkana. Totally breathtaking.
So when you think about Kenya's North Rift, perhaps this time you will consider a visit. Alan Naoko, Channel 1 News, Turkana County.
Thank you so much, Alan, for that report. Police have fired on protesters in Myanmar, killing at least 18. The UN Human Rights Office says on the deadliest day of anti-coup rallies, deaths were reported in several cities, including Yangon, Dawei, and Mandalay, as police used live round and tear gas. Security forces began the violent crackdown on Saturday after weeks of largely peaceful protest against the 1st February military takeover.
Social media footage from Sunday showed protesters running away as police charged them, makeshift roadblocks being erected, and several people being led away covered in blood. The police crackdown was expanded on Sunday as coup leaders sought to quash a civil disobedience campaign that has shown no sign of ending. The UN Human Rights Office condemned the violence against protesters, saying it had credible information that at least 18 people had been killed on Sunday. More than 30 others have been injured. Elsewhere, the US has condemned reported atrocities in Ethiopia's conflict-hit northern region of Tigray, urging the African Union to help resolve the deteriorating situation of crimes against humanity. Hundreds have been killed and tens of thousands displaced in 4 months. The conflict erupted on the 4th of November 2020 when Ethiopia's government launched an offensive to oust the Tigray People's Liberation Front after its fighters captured federal military bases in Tigray. Amnesty International accused troops from neighboring Eritrea of killing hundreds of people in the city of Aksum on the 28th and 29th of November, saying the mass killings may amount to a crime against humanity.
And it's break time here on Channel 1 Weekend. Thank you so much for staying with us. We have plenty more to come. Stay with us.
Fanya hivi, wewe teremuka tu chini. Hata watu wanangojea, unasema unione? Si ninakuona ndio huyu kucha. Kucha ninakuona.
Yoi.
Nimekuita mara ngapi Kate? This is the Nissan Note.
Hii ndio motoka.
Not that this is the Nissan Note we are giving out.
Na ni rahisi sana kuwekelea bid. Unaenda kwenye lipa na M-Pesa. Unaweka paybill number 4032353. Kisha unakelea account number ya Nissan Note ni Note, N-O-T-E. Namba ambayo unapenda, labda unapenda 100, labda unapenda 200. Wekelea Note 100, Note 200. Alafu tutakuitisha shilingi 40 peke yake, 40 bob only. Weka pin yako, utakuwa umekelea bid ya hii Nissan Note. Inakungoja wewe mahali popote ulipo. Mimi na mtumishi tutakupea.
The DFB Pokal Cup is back. Borussia Mönchengladbach and Borussia Dortmund renew their rivalries as they go head-to-head in the quarterfinals.
Pass from Marco Reus, the skipper with a perfect pass for Jadon Sancho! Oh, that was classy!
Who will get the city's bragging rights? Catch this match live on KBC Channel 1 this Tuesday from 10:45 p.m. Don't miss these exciting games live and exclusive on KBC Channel 1. Your true sports partner. On the next episode of Ashoka.
You are the one chosen by fate to lead Magad Empire and Maurya clan to the prime. It is you only.
Ashoka.
Now you shall see that the same sun will kill you
and free the people of Takshashila from you.
Look over there.
What are you people doing?
Many thanks for staying with us. It's now time for the sport. Gideon Rono produced an outstanding performance to beat the 2018 Commonwealth Games bronze medalist Rogers Kwemoi in the men's 5,000 final as the curtains came down on the opening leg of the Athletics Kenya track and field weekend meeting at Nyayo National Stadium.
Rogers Kwemoi, Daniel Simiyu and Gideon Rono took charge of the race from the onset. Kwemoi led throughout the race, but with 2 laps to go, Rono took charge. Rono crossed the finish line in 13 minutes, 21 seconds, relegating Kwemoi to second position. Daniel Simiyu completed the podium dash.
Yes, walipiga sana lakini hata mimi si kwa rahisi. Tunilijiandaa vizuri sana. Sio ningang'ang'ana. Nikaona pace imeshika tukatasea.
In the women's 400 meters final, Helen Siombua emerged victorious ahead of Gladys Musyoki, who came in second. Evangeline Makena finished third.
Race ya leo nilikuwa nimejiandaa juu tangu mwezi wa kwanza sikuwa form ya 400, nilikuwa nimeanza mazoezi late. Lakini saa hii nimeona sasa nimeanza kuenda mpaka tuende Olympic na tuende release. Niko ready.
In the men's 400 meters final, Zablon Ekwam won the race ahead of William Ryan and Wycliffe Kinyamal, who came in second and third respectively.
Since yesterday tulikuwa na hits, nimekimbia semi-finali jana. Solo nilikuwa na finali. Na imekuwa vizuri, nimekimbia best time. So far national lead. Yes.
Karanja David for Channel 1 Sports.
As visitors, AFC Leopards registered a 2-1 win over perennial nemesis Kakamega Homeboys in a closely contested Football Kenya Federation League match played at Bukhungu Stadium. Elsewhere, Gospel women advanced to the quarterfinals of the FKF Women Cup after trouncing Makolandas 7-0 at Ruiru grounds.
Sinaji scored the opener for Leopards in the 10th minute. Elvis Rupia doubled the lead shortly before halftime. Alan Wanga scored the consolation goal for Kakamega Homeboys.
Tulianza vibaya sana kipindi cha kwanza, tukaweza kupigwa mabao mawili. I think kipindi cha pili tumekuja tukaamka, tumepata nafasi hajazitumia. So congratulations to Leopards.
I'm really not satisfied about the second half because the second half we were only thinking to defend, even if we were not in trouble. But we need to be able to keep the ball. We need to be able to manage the tempo. And in second half we didn't do it.
LCA Gospel women advanced to the quarterfinals of the FKF Women Cup after trouncing Makolanda 7-0 at Ruiru grounds. In another match, Waradia humbled Sep Ladies 3-2.
And KCB women's volleyball team came from a set down to trounce former league champions Kenya Pipeline by 3-1 in an entertaining league match played at the Nyayo National Stadium Indoor Arena.
After losing to defending champions Kenya Prisons in the first leg, the Bankers came into the match targeting to redeem themselves. However, a young Kenya Pipeline side took charge of the opening set, easily winning 25-23. KCB, under the tutelage of veteran tactician Japheth Munala and Paul Bitok, came back fighting, winning the set 25-21. Despite making a number of changes in the third set, Kenya Pipeline under coach Paul Gitau lost the set 25-19. KCB backed the fourth set 25-17 to register the crucial victory.
It was a strategy that we had to make. We had to make a decision and we had to make it work. So maybe they expected me to stand on the touchline. I was not there. So appearance of Bitok on the touchline brought a lot of confusion to Kenya Pipeline technical bench, and that worked for us as KCB Bank.
My team is super. They have done good. I'm satisfied, and I believe they are satisfied, and they are happy. That is the maximum we could give ourselves, and we cannot force ourselves to do what we can't do. We can go beyond our limit. That was our maximum. The girls have done it. The girls have played well, and I'm happy. I salute them.
In other matches, Prisons Kenya humbled compatriots Nairobi Prisons by 3 straight sets. Vihiga humbled AP Kenya by 3 sets to 2, while Prisons Kenya trounced KPA by 3 sets to 2.
And that brings us to the end of sports news tonight. On Family Matters, we have 2 interesting conversations. Kenya joined the world to mark the Wheelchair Day tomorrow, and we'll be having that conversation, just what strides we have made to, and how do we appreciate these wheelchairs, especially being used by persons living with disabilities. That conversation we will be having with our team of experts. Susan Nafula, who is a legal officer, National Council for Persons Living with Disabilities, and Benson Ibagesa, Programs Officer at the Association for the Physically Disabled in the country. And we also have an NTSA Executive Officer who will be addressing issues to do with mobility, and definitely the issues that have been going around in the country on the schools unrest are a matter that we'll also be discussing here on Family Matters. Do you think the schools unrest in the country have anything to do with drug and substance abuse by learners? Again, Elma Dragan and Joel Gitali are my guests for that. Stay tuned for that. We are coming back shortly.
It's another one of those nights where dry weather conditions dominate most parts of the country, with the exception of the Lake region, where there will be slight rainfall there. Good evening, my name is Yusuf Farah. Time now for your Channel 1 weather updates. Tomorrow morning, we'll be waking up to sunny intervals in most parts of the country. From areas of the capital city, Nairobi, will be having sunny intervals. The same sunny intervals in the coastal region all the way to the northeastern region, areas of Garissa, Mandera, Isiolo and Wajir. Areas of Nyanza and Western will also be having sunny intervals in the morning. In the afternoon, changes won't be there much. Sunny intervals in Nyanza and Western. The coastal region will also be having sunny intervals. The same weather conditions will be experienced in Garissa, Mandera and Isiolo, all the way to Lodwar, the Lake Turkana Basin and areas bordering Kenya and South Sudan. Looking at the temperatures now, highs of 38, lows of 25 in Mandera, Lamu highs of 31, lows of 25, and the capital city highs of 27 and lows of 14. On that note, I complete the local weather focus. The international weather focus is coming up in a bit. Again, many thanks for keeping it Channel 1. Until I see you next time, do have yourselves a lovely night.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
It sounds like you'll have a good job. Oh, look at that. Bianca didn't waste time. When she became a Piemonte, she started moving. Like mother, like daughter.
How long have we lived happily in peace and harmony and without lies? I'm asking you two a question now.
What do you want? I wanted to just kiss you guys goodnight.
Unichukulie kwa mfano ndani ya matatu.
Yaani mtu mzima na miaka zake hizo miaka zote. Mtu ajui kujua kuandika note. Note tu peke yake. Kusoma kweli itasaidia.
Nini nakusumbua na nini?
Nauliza. Ni bwana.
There. Insult me, okay?
Mama Angel.
Don't you dare.
Haya, kwani ni vita? Nini wewe? Yaani wataka kumpiga. Huwezi mpige umpige nini?
On the next episode of Ashoka.
You are the one, chosen by fate to lead Magad Empire and Maurya clan to the prime. It is you only.
Ashoka!
Now you shall see that the same sun will kill you and free the people of Takshashila from you.
Look over there.
What are you people doing?
Oh no, baby!
When Anna got sick, I just couldn't understand it. Why was this loving little girl going through this?
I think your daughter is lactose intolerant. Acid reflux. Everything looks okay. Everything's fine.
Everything is not fine. There's something wrong with our little girl.
Mrs. B, you need to calm down.
I'm not leaving this hospital until I know what's wrong with my daughter!
Unfortunately, the tests confirm that she's very ill. There is currently no cure for Anna's condition.
Doctor, please, this is our little girl. I'm scared, Mom.
Me too.
And we'll get it.
How?
By not losing our faith.
How long have you been married? 14 years. Free her from this. Can you even hear me?
This is my fight song. Take back my life.
So you're telling me
The DFB Pokal Cup is back. Borussia Mönchengladbach and Borussia Dortmund renew their rivalries as they go head-to-head in the quarterfinals.
Pass from Marco Reus, the skipper with a perfect pass for Jadon Sancho! Oh, that was classy!
Who will get the city's bragging rights? Catch this match live on KBC Channel 1 this Tuesday from 10:45 p.m. Don't miss these exciting games live and exclusive on KBC Channel 1. Your true sports partner.
Ini lazima utamark kwa kalenda ya mamasta majima bazenga.
She's so expensive, okay. Niweke kwa inamba buda boss tuma kitu na tumepia na ya kutoa.
Line already, it's time already. A line already, it's time already.
Make I tell you what you looking for a bullet. Baby, come release your body, body, yeah. Back it up right away, yeah, right away.
Gang rada chafu nikishikaga hizo chafu bana shika shash pale bedroom kila siku bash hii ni lynch ndakikomba.
Gear up and maintain a healthy, fit and active lifestyle right there at home by keeping up with Gear Up on Channel 1, 5:30 to 6 a.m. Monday to Saturday. Gear up every day for every moment, and remember to stay home and keep safe.
KBC Channel 1 evokes the full potential of worship in you. Join us for an experience like no other when it comes to lifting your soul and giving adoration.
We are here for you.
Worship experience. Praise mix. On the next episode of Ashoka.
You are the one, chosen by fate to lead Magad Empire and Maurya clan to the prime. It is you only.
Ashoka!
Now you shall see that the same sun will kill you and free the people of Takshashila from you.
Look over there.
What are you people doing?
The DFB Pokal Cup is back. Borussia Mönchengladbach and Borussia Dortmund renew their rivalries as they go head-to-head in the quarterfinals.
Pass from Marco Reus, the skipper with a perfect pass for Jadon Sancho! Oh, that was classy!
Who will get the city's bragging rights? Catch this match live on KBC Channel 1 this Tuesday from 10:45 p.m. Don't miss these exciting games live and exclusive on KBC Channel 1, your true sports partner.
Three.
1, 2, 3.
Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Family Matters. Once again, I'm Purity Museo, and we start by focusing on the plight of persons living with disabilities. And this conversation is coming at a time when March 1st is a global commemoration of Wheelchair Day. And this day is marked to just celebrate this wheelchair as one of the things helping persons living with disability in the cope up with the situation in the country. So my guest tonight tonight. Susan Nafula, Legal Officer, National Council for Persons Living with Disabilities, and Benson Agesa, who is the Programs Officer at the Association for the Physically Disabled Persons in the country. And lastly, at the far end, we have Bright Owaya, thank you, NTSA Executive Officer. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us tonight. Okay, let me begin with you, Bright. Tomorrow is an important day for persons living with disability. When we look back, Bright, how far would you say as a country we've come from? You know, is it now a bit easier for persons with disability, or how would you rate us as a country, I mean?
Thank you. First of all, I would like to clarify that I'm no longer with NTSA.
Okay.
But as a person living with disability and using a wheelchair, we've made some strides, but there's still a long journey to go. We begin by realizing that in 2003, we put into place the Disability Act that has never been operationalized. In terms of the content, in terms of accessibility, in terms of access, in terms of built environments, the challenges we were facing 10 years back, we are still facing today. Though a few buildings here and there will be found with ramps, with accessibility places, but why would it be that persons living with disability, especially those who use wheelchairs, still feel like it's an afterthought? So we've made some strides, but we are far from over. We need legislation, we need what is it called? We need to enforce. We need to bring it to life. And we need to realize that people living on wheelchairs don't just want tokenism. They want to live a life that's real, a life that's free, a life that's accessible.
Benson, will the persons living with disability tomorrow in Kenya be really celebrating this day? I want you to address the issue of accessibility of this commodity by persons living with disability. Do we still have people struggling to find this or to acquire this?
Thank you very much. Maybe I'll start by saying, according to WHO, the need for wheelchair service or wheelchair to persons with disabilities is at 1%. When you look at the population in Kenya, as per our previous survey, we are having around 400,000 Kenyans who have disability in need of a wheelchair. But you look at the situation or the prevailing situation in terms of how far we're able to produce these wheelchairs and how far we've been able to offer, there is still a greater need. I know a lot has been done, and many persons with disability have been reached with the same, but there is still a greater need for this. Yeah.
Okay. Now, Susan, I'll welcome your comment on this.
As we well all know,
and you can also tell us the plans for tomorrow.
Okay. So as you well all know, there is that for a law to actually have effect, it has to have mechanisms put in place which are direct, which are easy, and which are also implementable. So the enforcement of law is much more basically based on the mechanism put in place. So for persons living with disability, it has become a challenge, since the mechanisms that are put in place are either not effective enough, or due to the past notion that people living with disability are a nuisance to the society, or they are cursed and they cannot be productive members of the society. We need to change that perspective in regards not only to law, but also in educating the society in how the people living with disability can actually help us in developing our country in different ways.
All right. And Bright, of course, Benson will be telling us some of the challenges that he interacts with most of these persons. So he'll be telling us. But on what is going on, a report by the United Nations has revealed that apart from the economic impact of COVID-19, persons living with disability are experiencing a challenge. And this is maybe accessibility, or let's say in terms of healthcare. So do we have a challenge of accessing healthcare services maybe occasioned by the COVID-19 pandemic, Bright?
Absolutely, yes. Even before COVID-19, persons with disability had challenges accessing basic facilities like health. So COVID only comes to complicate matters. When you talk about accessible transport, for example, I need to get to a clinic in point A, I'm in point B. Now we are having vehicles, public service vehicles, with the conditions that they have to be, is it 60% or I can't remember the percentage. Even when there was no COVID, it was very difficult for a person on a wheelchair to get into public transport. 1, it is not accessible. 2, you're not accepted. 3, you are considered to be luggage. So how much more now? So COVID has only come to complicate an already complicated story. So this has heightened the issue of accessibility and mobility for persons with disability.
And Benson, what are some of the things that ought to be looked at nationally to just ensure that the persons living with disability are, let's say, comfortable, you know? Yeah.
One of the key factors to be considered is identifications, because we need to map out and understand the actual data in regards to how many persons with disability in Kenya need these wheelchairs. The second level is now doing the appropriate assessment. We understand a lot of well-wishers, a lot of partners are coming up with programs to assist either to issue wheelchairs. But what we need to do at this stage is to do an appropriate service provision whereby identified personnel have to be really assessed to ensure that they are getting the right product in the market for them to be able to really move on well with life so that they're able to live independently. So there is a bigger challenge of, 1, access to those wheelchairs. And as we all understand, the cost of these wheelchairs is not really pocket-friendly to most of the wheelchair users. And you find we really have to mobilize resources by reaching to different partners, engaging from all over, from the government, non-government organizations, to ensure that we are coming up with resources to really allocate and ensure that there's enough fabrication for these wheelchairs.
And you know, what Benson is talking about is part of the mandate by the council, Susan, and I'm welcoming you to address that. But just before that, maybe would you paint a picture to us on how COVID-19 has affected persons living with disability, and if you have any cases reported among this group?
Well, the council has the mandate to actually ensure that assistive devices are being circulated to the people living with disability. So that's why the council, in collaboration with Kenya KRA, decided to waive import taxes onto assistive devices in order to assist people living with disability get the assistive devices that they need so that they can be able to continue their day-to-day work. But the cases that I've received during this COVID-19 is either from people living with disability is the enormous bill, medical bill that is they incur in actually accessing the basic medication or the basic physiotherapy that they require for a day-to-day. And also there are other, like children who have Down syndrome getting the therapy or the speech therapy or any other therapy that they require. It has become really difficult because most of the hospitals, either they are full or they can't travel to the nearest hospital to get the necessary therapy due to the curfew. So parents are they really have to struggle in the sense of providing the therapy at home, and yet they are not qualified to give the therapy. So as for the council, we have tried to make strides in doing accessibility audits on buildings, public buildings or any other building that is accessible to people with disability, because we are trying to promote a barrier-free society where they can be able to move and do that and be productive people in the society. As the only thing that we need now is to actually identify the actual ways of assisting them by not only categorizing all of them into one one cluster of people living with disability. As we all know, there are different types of disability, and each one of them require different types of assistance, different types of equipment. So that
and Nafula, I want to stay with you and ask you to, according to the council, what you recognize as a person, as a disability, because we could be addressing different things here.
So a person with disability is a person who either has sensory, mental, or physical incapacitation in regards to actually doing their day-to-day life, day-to-day activities, and for us, you may categorize them as, for visual is a blind person, for physical is somebody either in a wheelchair, and then there's mental, they are the Down syndrome, and then there's or any other mental illness in the sense. But for the council, we do not clump all of them as to one. Each one of them has special needs, and we treat them in a different way. So for the accessibility audit, we normally take people with different types of disability into a building, and we actually see if they can actually access that building for it to actually be a barrier-free building or institution.
Bright, you are looking at Nafula suggestively. I don't know whether you agree. I do not know whether you agree with what she said about how the council is protecting persons living with disability. Do you think they have done enough?
The council has tried, considering where we were before it, but the council still has a long way to go. A long way to go in terms of even the definition. I am not needy. I don't need help. I need inclusion. I need capacity. I need belonging. So if we remove our mindset from a person with disability needs, so we are here, us, we are helping them, that's where the problem begins. We have to remove the mental barriers before we remove the physical barriers. So how a language has a way of telling you what somebody thinks about something. So even as a nation, we need to begin to look at persons with disability as people, because we say person with disability. I'm a person first before the disability. I have capabilities that are beyond the wheelchair. Actually, the wheelchair is a symbol of freedom. It's a symbol of empowerment. It's what makes me move. It's not the other way around. Because many times when you appear as someone in a wheelchair, there's less than kind of attitude. I think that's what we need to begin with. Once we deal with the mental stigma, it is very easy now to deal with the physical stigma, because it all begins in the mind. Nobody needs help. We need inclusion. We need belonging. That's the difference.
Benson, you're saying sure. I don't know, when you're there advocating for the rights of persons living with disability, what are the things that you really want addressed?
First and foremost, we need to create awareness. There is a lot of misinformation or a lot of lack of awareness in regards to what disability is all about, the way Bright has just alluded to it, even from the definition itself. We really need to create more awareness so that we need the society at large to understand disability. And through this awareness creation and understanding, that sense of belonging and recognizing a person with disability as a person first will come automatically, because once you are aware, information, it's power, and it will give you that energy to really appreciate that disability is just part of our life. We need to embrace it. And more so, all of us are just prone to disability. Today is Bright, tomorrow might be someone else. So we really need to ensure that we are creating an environment that is very inclusive, so that by the time we are there, or for those who are already there, they have to really enjoy their life to the maximum, just like me and you, we don't have disability at the moment.
And before I get to you, Susan, let me go back to Bright. Bright mentioned that the wheelchair is a form of freedom, which I agree. Now, there has been an issue to do with mobility as far as persons living with disability is concerned. Is that still an issue, even as we look forward to celebrating the Wheelchair Day tomorrow?
Yeah, it's still an issue, because for me, it's the environment that actually disables me. It is not what I find, the situation I find myself in. It is the environment. If there are ramps, if the walkways are wide enough, if the lifts for people with visual disability has sound, then that person is able to just run their life the way any other person does. So the environment really is the one that causes disability. And like I said before, it begins with a mental disability. I mean, with the mental barriers.
Okay, so we are winding up. I welcome Benson to say how best those barriers can be addressed. And of course, Nafula, you will make some promises because we need the council at least to assure these persons of that they're secure and like Bright was saying, they do not need help, they need freedom, you know. So please address those two issues in a minute.
Before handling the barriers, I can give more input about tomorrow's celebration. We'll be celebrating International Wheelchair Day in Kenya. Actually, it's the 3rd edition. There are 3 key objectives as to why this celebration is very key to us as Kenyans. One, we want to really appreciate and really enable or make the society understand the impact of wheelchair to the wheelchair user's life. There is a lot that has been enabled by just having a simple gadget, the wheelchair, in the life of a wheelchair user. Secondly, we want to really appreciate hundreds or many people, many stakeholders who are involved either in production, in supporting, and ensuring that those who have been rich are able to get these wheelchairs. We want to take this time to really appreciate them because they're doing a noble cause. And finally, we want to really create the awareness and let the society understand, despite all the effort that have been made by the government, the National Council, and all other key stakeholders into this, there is still a greater need for the wheelchair services.
All right, thank you so much, Benson.
Yeah.
Yes, it's over to you, Susan.
Okay, as a council, currently we have made some few changes in the council. As you all know, we have a new executive director, and he has a vision to where the council should be and where it needs to be to head towards to. So in educating and promoting awareness, we are going to have our first ever legal aid clinic at the National Council on 10th March 2021. This will help help people with disability know their rights and understand their rights and to identify discrimination in whatever environment they are in. So that is the first step that the council is doing in regards to creation of awareness of rights with people with disability, and also other things will be coming soon, which I can't list them all of them here, but that's the main important one.
Thank you so much. And of course, inclusion and do not stigmatize persons living with disability is what we are taking home tonight. Susan, Bright, and Benson, thank you so much for your time. Don't go anywhere. We still have another conversation, especially on the schools unrest in the country. So do stay tuned for that as well. Thank you so much.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
It sounds like you'll have a good job.
Oh, look at that. Bianca didn't waste time. When she became a Piemonte, she started moving. Like mother, like daughter.
How long have we lived happily in peace and harmony and without lies? I'm asking you two a question now.
What do you want? I wanted to just kiss you guys goodnight.
Unichukulie kwa mfano ndani ya matatu.
Yaani mtu mzima na miaka zake, hizo miaka zote, mtu ajui kujua kuandika note, note tu peke yake. Kusoma kweli itasaidia.
Nini nakusumbua na nini?
Nauliza, ni bwana?
Don't you dare insult me, okay?
Mama Angel,
don't you dare.
Haya, kwani ni vita? Nini wewe? Yaani wataka kumpiga? Huwezi mpige, mpige nini?
When Anna got sick, I just couldn't understand it. Why was this loving little girl going through this?
I think your daughter is lactose intolerant.
Acid reflux.
Everything looks okay.
Everything's fine.
Everything is not fine. There's something wrong with our little girl.
Mrs. B, you need to calm down.
I'm not leaving this hospital until I know what's wrong with my daughter.
Unfortunately, the tests confirm that she's very ill. There is currently no cure for Anna's condition.
Doctor, please, this is our little girl.
I'm scared, Mom.
Me too.
And we'll get it.
How?
By not losing our faith.
How long you been married? 14 years. Free her from this. Can you even hear me?
This is my fight song. Take back my life.
So you're telling me?
On the next episode of Ashoka.
You are the one chosen by fate to lead Magad Empire and Maurya clan to the prime. It is you only.
Ashoka.
Now you shall see that the same sun will kill you and free the people of Takshashila from you.
Look over there.
What are you people doing?
The DFB Pokal Cup is back. Borussia Mönchengladbach and Borussia Dortmund renew their rivalries as they go head-to-head in the quarterfinals.
Pass from Marco Reus, the skipper with a perfect pass for Jadon Sancho! Oh, that was classy!
Who will get the city's bragging rights? Catch this match live on KBC Channel 1 this Tuesday from 10:45 p.m. Don't miss these exciting games live and exclusive on KBC Channel 1, your true sports partner.
She's so expensive, okay.
A report released by NACADA in February this year revealed that at least 20% of primary school pupils are partaking of any, let's say, one or two kinds of drugs and substances in the country, and the same report revealed or linked this abuse to the ongoing unrest in schools. That's our discussion this moment, and in studio we have Elmad Regan, who is a psychologist, and next to Elmad is the chair for the Kenya Tobacco Control Alliance, Joel Gitali. Thank you so much. Let me begin by asking you, Elmad, whether you think my question applies to what is going on. And I was asking our viewers whether they feel there is a link between the ongoing unrest in schools to students partaking in drugs and substance.
So there is a definite link between the ongoing unrest that we've witnessed in schools, especially after the reopening, after the 9-month period, because by and large, the cases have been quite heightened. Of course, we've had them over the years, but then the one that we witnessed recently was quite heightened. And definitely, there is a role that drugs and substance abuse plays in all this school unrest. Yes.
Okay, and you'll be telling us this role, okay?
Sure.
So, Gitali, you had a campaign this week against the latest drug being used in the country. Maybe you can bring us to speed on which drugs are commonly abused here.
Yeah, drugs that are commonly abused include alcohol, then tobacco, we have marijuana, miraa, or what others call muguga or whatever. Then we have cocaine, we have hashish, heroin, to a small extent, but the major ones are alcohol and tobacco, and then miraa in our country. Yes.
And what would you say, because some of these the alcoholic or these drugs have nicotine, and so you have been having a campaign and trying to say it's false what the agencies are saying in regard to the nicotine-free drugs that are currently being introduced, and you mentioned Lift as one of them.
Yes, there is what we call what's called Lift. This is an oral nicotine kind of product that is consumed in a way that tobacco is not traditionally not to be consumed, that it's actually packed in small bags like the tea bags, and is placed between the upper lip and the gum, so that whatever the content is actually nicotine enters the bloodstream through that area. And this has been all over being sold by BAT. And then it is well written on that this product contains nicotine and is highly addictive. So those who say that it doesn't contain nicotine are not right, because even the manufacturers have said it contains nicotine. So something funny is that this drug has been sweets, like anything else, to everybody, including children. And it was discovered that it had been irregularly registered by the Pharmacy and Poisons Board, which falls under the Ministry of Health, and the Cabinet Secretary was not aware. The rest of the Ministry of Health was not actually aware of this. So that's what we have been talking about, because so many children went into it, they have been using it. There is all the evidence that children have used this, even those in primary schools, and it causes addiction. So once they are addicted, then they'll continue craving for nicotine, and that makes them to go for anything that is near them that can provide nicotine, including cigarettes, including shisha, and whatever that they can come across. And as we know, this is normally the gateway to hard drugs. So those who start using nicotine in that kind of manner, whether through the oral nicotine pouches or by smoking, end up graduating to higher drugs. They now start using cocaine, heroin, marijuana, and such kind of things. And that is the problem we now have in the country.
And Regan, you mentioned a link between drug abuse and mental instability. When you are responding to this concern on the link between drug abuse and schools unrest in the country, maybe you can expound on that?
Yeah, sure. So as we all know, when the new normal came into place, or came into effect, a lot of things changed. One of them including the closure of bars and restaurants where, say, revelers or people who use alcohol would go and have their shared deal of their favorite drink, or maybe whatever they smoke. So when these areas or public places, restaurants and bars were closed, then it meant that they had to get their own ways of how to enjoy their drinks. And so this left them with the option of taking their drinks back to their homes. And in their homes, there are children there who are watching whatever these guardians or parents are doing. And you see, over time it gets curiosity in children, because children are often then not very curious, especially the ages of 9 to about 15. They want to say, okay, dad wasn't drinking initially, but right now he's sitting with a bottle of wine or alcohol or whichever beverage that is alcoholic in the house. And so they want to take up this just to but experiment. And as they experiment, they find that there's some sort of pleasure that comes with it, because they'll be like, I tried this yesterday, I had this kind of feeling, and I think it's okay. And before long, they get hooked into it. Now, when they go back to school, there is the carried learned culture that they got from home, they picked from home. And so the moment they go back to school, they want to relive the experience again, because in school there's a bit of restriction, there's no alcohol, there's no drugs, there's no nothing. But because they want their own sort of heightened pleasure and, perceived sense of freedom, they don't want to indulge in behavior that would bring attention to them and them alone. But the underlying issue here is that they are on drugs, but they do not reach out that they have a problem. And so see, this now escalates to issues of, say, like banning of schools or dormitories and school amenities and such related instances. So that's how the link comes to play about. Yeah.
And Joe, you mentioned that when children begin to abuse these drugs and they start using you said the harder or the higher, I don't know what you meant, but did you mean, or did you want to say there are maybe drugs that have higher content of nicotine and others have lesser, which means translates to some being more harmful than others?
Not really. What I meant here was that we have these drugs that have a more serious effect, almost instant, because tobacco has very serious effects, but they take time to manifest. But we have drugs like cocaine, heroin, marijuana that affect the user immediately, and you find people behaving funny. That's why we talk about mental health among the youth and even adults during this time of the corona, whereby people went into drugs and because of stress and other issues of life. And then you find that now when these children start using these drugs that now interfere with reasoning, they interfere with how one functions, then they now get addicted, more and more addicted to them. And maybe that's why we are fighting against the sale of lift by BAT to the minors, because once these minors get hooked, they'll use every means. And you see, those who go back to schools, especially the boarding schools, start experiencing withdrawal symptoms when they don't have access to these things. And that's when they can even cause trouble so as to be sent home to go and have access to the drugs. They get stressed up, and whatever frustrations they have, they start acting in a very funny manner. And also generally, when they don't reason well, they cannot sit down to think about issues. Maybe some of them feel that they have even left what we can say spouses in quotes outside there, because they enter the wrong relationships outside there, and they are longing to be there. So when they are on drugs, then they stop thinking and they start acting very badly because of the things they feel they are missing and so on. So these are the drugs we are talking about that cause instant change in behavior in the learners. Much as tobacco will cause such kind of change, but it will take time, and then it will cause even greater problems like cancer and all the problems we think about. Yeah.
And some stakeholders, Regan, were suggesting that the reintroduction of corporal punishment to just avert all these vices and the behavior going on in schools. But you linked these behaviors to mental instability, probably linked to the drug abuse. So how can this be undone?
Yeah, so the idea, or rather the thought to introduce corporal punishment would seem like an immediate solution to the problem, but then the root cause will not have been solved. Because really, if you really want to really look at it from only one angle, one perspective, then you get it wrong. And so ideally, how can this be undone is that we need to understand that as parents or caregivers, we need to understand the kind of children that we have, because they are gifted differently, and there's that wide array of personality differences. And so the moment as a parent understand that my kid is of this personality and not of this personality, then it gets a bit easier for you to understand them, such that if, say, for example, you want to reprimand them, you use the best affordable, or rather the best available means of punishment or reprimanding them for that reason. Because the moment the parent is not involved, or the parenting style they choose is not correct, then they end up even making the child go into deeper states of disarray and dismay, and eventually maybe even using drugs or even engaging in crime. And so it's up to the parents now to understand what kind of parenting style will I use that is effective to my child or to my kid. And this means that as a parent, the moment you start engaging your child from a young age, then it's easier for you to handle them, because there's a certain age where if they're not well, groomed into being the adult they should be, then it gets a bit difficult to manage them as they grow up onwards. Yeah.
There are some of the substances that have been banned here in Kenya, Joe, including shisha. So how do you suggest that we ban all these other harmful, substances, or maybe simply implementing the existing guidelines?
Yeah, when we talk about banning like lifts, it's because of two major things. One, it's actually a gateway for the young people. When these young people start, for example, smoking, they feel irritated, they cough, they they feel that the smoke is actually choking them and all that. But now, by introducing these products that have got very good flavors and they are appealing to them, they are then easily recruited into that kind of behavior. So we are saying they are bad because they are going to cause so many youth to be addicted to these substances that we want them not to, and then we are going to have a very big problem in the country. Secondly, we are saying that if this lift was registered illegally, then to show that this is the wrong thing and to take some step that will make sure that others don't do the same, then the government should ban it. It shouldn't actually look like it is rewarding the company, that is BAT, by just changing or rather legalizing the product by registering it under the Right Act, but it should just be banned because it was registered wrongly, and those that were behind it are supposed to be punished. We ought to see people being taken to court for having involved themselves in an illegality, because we keep on suspecting that given the history that we have about the tobacco industry, it is possible that wrong things happened, maybe money exchanged hands, you can never tell. So we ought to come out of this by punishing those that engage in illegalities. So we can subject these things to the regulations that are there. But when you look at the nicotine pouches, for example, we are now told that the ministry has decided that the nicotine pouches shall be regulated by the Tobacco Control Act and shall be treated the way we treat tobacco products. But when you look at that act, you find that it doesn't sufficiently address such products because they were not there when this law was being passed. So it will give this, the dealers a leeway to continue now selling the products, doing whatever they want, and when you try to talk, you are asked to cite part of the law that they are breaking. So there is still a problem there. Unless we have a proper legal framework, then we are cheating ourselves.
Regan, there are two issues I want you to address before we wind up. Some people would run to some of these drugs, especially when they are stressed, and we know that is happening now. COVID-19 has brought a lot of stress economically to people. So how best should people deal with stress? And number two, as we wind up, just to remind you, if you can tell us the long-term impact of drug abuse, especially on the mental stability of someone. Yeah.
All right. So maybe I'd start with the last question, the long-term effect, and then maybe see on how to get the possible solution in the long run. So the prolonged drug use or substance abuse can lead to very varied, weird outcomes. And when I say weird, link that to matters health, because a lot of the cancers we get to hear that are finishing people quite quickly are, like, for example, like cancer of the lungs, which is brought about largely by smoking. And so when somebody is actively involved in smoking, whether it's bang or the normal tobacco, then the lungs are overwhelmed. And that is just on the physical part, but the worst bit is now the psychological part, where now even the neurotransmitters in the brain are equally affected. And the moment neurotransmitters in the brain are affected, that means the judgment, the reasoning, the capacity of this person is highly compromised. Because often than not, we say that the moment somebody cannot judge right, cannot think right, cannot perceive right, cannot feel right, then there is a problem with their health. And so you see, with continued drug use, when these aspects I've mentioned, judgment, thinking, feelings, and perceptions, are not well linked or related, then there's cause for alarm. So you'd be looking at a nation whereby, we have, yes, a youthful population, but a majority of them cannot think right, judge right, or feel right, or make the well-informed decisions. And so therefore, what's the solution? The solution, I'd say, begins from the basic unit of the country, which for me is the family. As a parent, what kind of parent are you? Are you the one who is authoritative, whereby you have some sort of dialogue, but also some form of punishment or reprimandation with your child? Are you the authoritative one, or rather the one that shows too much authority, that the moment you say that you do this and you do that and there's no questioning, then you also look at the effects. What will that cause to your child? And equally in the same vein, do you want to be the permissive parent who is, always allowing their kids to do whatever they do, however they wish, and where they want? And lastly, are you the passive parent who is just absent and totally uninvolved with your kids' affairs? In my opinion, and globally accepted, should you be a parent to your kid, then be the authoritative one, the one that knows where the balance lies between sparing the rod and spoiling the child, so that at least at the end of the day we can be sure of a healthy generation so that we move forward.
Thank you so much, Regan. Joel, please make it 30 seconds, your parting shot.
Yeah, just maybe to touch a bit on what we are saying. Sometimes the parents we keep talking about are almost as young as the children we are handling, and some of them are even greater cases, and most of these children who do these things are orphans, some are being brought up by grandparents. So it's a complex situation, but the thing is that the government should also take lead and not expose these children and other people of this country to these drugs by allowing tobacco companies and others who deal in harmful products just to sell their products the way they want to do it. There must be a proper way of taking care of the public health. That must be the first thing that this government should be doing, so that the lives of Kenyans and especially these young people are protected. That's what we want to see being done in this country.
All right, thank you so much. Joel Gitali, the chair, KETCA, Kenya. Is it KETCA, the Kenya Tobacco Control Alliance, and also we have Elmer Regan, who is a psychologist. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for being part of our show tonight. I appreciate. And to all our viewers tonight, I thank you for your company. I'm Purity Museo, and Byron Abuli has been a sign language interpreter tonight. Due to time, I'll not be able to sample your opinion, but thank you so much for participating. Once again, enjoy the rest of your week, and God bless.
Vera Beauty College. Vera Beauty and Fashion College, with branches in Nairobi, Eldoret, Thika, and Meru. Did you know that we are a TVET approved institution? We offer courses in fashion design, interior design in soft furnishing, event decoration, flower arrangement, event planning, hairdressing, barbering and dreadlocks, beauty therapy, makeup, nail technology, spa massages, teaching skills, TOT, solo business management, and many more. Register now and visit our website on www.verabeautycollege.com.